Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today's phrase is to speak volumes, and it's very common to use this phrase. British people, as you probably know, we don't often say what we think. We do think a lot, but the only way you can work out what we are thinking is either by asking us directly, if you notice there's a problem, or by trying to work out the signs, what someone's really trying to tell you. Our actions speak louder than words. In fact, we have that proverb, actions speak louder than words do. There's many reasons why we don't speak directly. One is simply our politeness. We don't feel it's polite to be direct and to tell you what we think of you. Another reason might simply be something else, such as our political correctness. That means that we're not able just to insult you because we don't like the way you look or the way that you act. Whatever the reason that British people stay quiet, it's often very, very frustrating. Now, in friendships, you can address it quite easily. You can be very direct and you can ask people, do you have some kind of a difficulty with me? Is there a problem? Because your behavior would suggest that something isn't right. Now, it could just be a cultural difference. It could be anything. But in the workplace, it's very hard to know what the boss is thinking or what your teammates are thinking, especially these days because people carry with them all kinds of personal problems, especially after coronavirus, when maybe people are beginning to not socialize quite so much as they used to. So getting back to our phrase, speaking volumes, this is how we discuss the actions that someone takes and what it means to you. It sounds a bit complicated, but don't worry, I'm going to explain with some examples. So here's some examples. The empty streets at night speak volumes about the city's safety concerns. Her choice to help others speaks volumes about her character. My cat's excitement when I arrive home speaks volumes about its happiness. The silence after the announcement spoke volumes about how the team were feeling. The teacher's patience speaks volumes about her dedication to students. Their long-standing friendship speaks volumes about their loyalty to each other. So you can hear there that to speak volumes is all about actions speaking louder than words. And although some actions can be very negative, they also can be very positive. For example, I remember my grandparents. My grandmother never used the name of my grandfather. Okay, so his name was Andrew, okay? My grandmother never used his name. She sometimes just called him Dia. She sometimes just called him darling. Other times she called him the old fool. But she never actually used his name. And this was her way of really respecting him. Very interesting, yes. And that spoke volumes to me as a child. I mean, my family were a little bit strange with this kind of thing anyway. Yeah, especially my grandmother. She was a bit odd. But anyway, that spoke volumes to me. So you see, someone's actions can speak volumes to you uh, in a way that words can't. Another example, still staying with my grandparents, is they used to have big Christmas parties. We all would go to their house on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day at midday, and everyone would sit down to eat. We all had our own plates, but my grandparents would eat from the same plate. And again, that spoke volumes to us as children because it showed great unity. It showed the love they had for each other. I mean, I can't imagine sitting down with my family eating from the same plate. We have a little cat. If the cat gets there before we do, the food will be gone anyway. So, yeah, I think there would be a discomfort if I was eating from the same plate as a family member. They would always, oi, I want that. Give me that carrot. Where are you going with that? It's mine. You take the meat, I'll take the veg. Was that not what we agreed? So you can hear that times have changed and actions do speak louder than words. So yes, this is the phrase to speak volumes. Now, you can use it in many different tenses, okay? Past, present, future. There's no rules about how you can use it grammatically, but you can't change how it looks. So you can't change it to a volume, speak a volume. It's always speaks volumes, okay? Let's just do a few more examples to make it very clear. His refusal to make eye contact with his team spoke volumes about his discomfort with the conversation. The photographs from my friend spoke volumes about his ability as a photographer. The silence that followed his question spoke volumes about the tension in the room. Her smile spoke volumes, conveying her joy more profoundly than words ever could. Yeah, bosses in the UK are experts at smiling at you, especially, if it's a director or a very old man who owns the company. You're all doing very well before he falls backwards onto the floor because he's either drunk or because he's so old. These people don't tend to question what we do. Some of them have very deep insights into respecting their employees, so they don't usually get involved in day-to-day work. The pressures of the boss on how much work you're doing and how the team is performing may reflect in the boss's behavior. If you have a very silent boss and you're not really able to know what he's thinking about you, well, that speaks volumes about his ability as a boss. Some of us have bosses who examine every single little detail that we do, and that speaks volumes about trust, doesn't it? So there's all kinds of ways you can use this, but whatever way you do, it will speak volumes about your communication skills. So, to speak volumes. A few weeks ago, I gave you an update on the post office scandal. This is the one where the post office had introduced an IT system many years ago, and it had some kind of fault in it. And as a result, 700 people were prosecuted for stealing money. Many of them went to prison. I think a few of them killed themselves because our post offices are community hubs. They're operated by local people, by people in the community who should be respected. And when this storm came, many people assumed that there was something wrong with their mathematical skills, because remember, beforehand, people perhaps weren't using computer programs. Some of them quickly borrowed money to pay back to the post office to avoid any criminal action being taken against them. But the end result was a number of people, 700 of them, either going to prison or being penalized somehow, for example, being given criminal records, suffered greatly. These people suffered a lot. So in response to all of this, the government has promised compensation. The government has promised to give a lot of money to the people who've been affected. Now, around 700 of them are still alive. Some of them, as I mentioned, took their own lives because they couldn't deal with the pressure. And some of them complained to the post office that they'd done nothing wrong, but the post office really didn't want to know. So this was a great scandal. And finally, somebody somewhere discovered recently that the problem was actually the computer system. So the government's agreed to pay a lot of money to the victims. And a few days ago, they introduced the Post Office Offences Bill. This is a bill, a law, which is going through Parliament. And it's very important because the government can't pay compensation until this bill is passed. However, there's all kinds of problems with it. And the way it's been introduced speaks volumes about the gravity of the situation, because they're trying to push it through urgently to ensure that people get the money. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there who really do want the cash. This bill quashes, that just means takes away. Okay, if something is quashed, it's flattened. It means that it will be removed. It quashes all of the convictions of offences such as theft, fraud, and false accounting for these people, which they supposedly committed between 1996 and 2018 by people working in post offices in England and Wales that used the Horizon System software. Now, again, as I mentioned to you a few days ago, you can hear there England and Wales. It doesn't mention the rest of the UK, like Scotland and Northern Ireland. The reasons for that is because Scotland has a different legal system, a historic one, so there'll have to be a separate court bill, which goes through, I suppose, and agreed with the Scottish Parliament. This is really controversial because Parliament makes the law and the courts carry it out. But by bringing in a law to say that people are not guilty, Parliament is interfering with the court system. And this is very, very dangerous. And many experts are warning that the government shouldn't do this. One of the reasons why it's causing so much concern is because amongst the 700 people who went to court and went to jail for stealing money, maybe some of them did actually steal money. I mean, everyone's afraid to say that, but it is actually possible. The government have said, oh, well, you know, the courts are so busy and they also are underfunded. So it's better and quicker if we just pass a law forgiving all of these people. But our court system has said, actually, that's not true. The court system would be able to deal with these cases, and it's untrue that this legislation has been agreed by the court system. The court system has issued a statement to say all legal pardons or forgivings should be going through the courts to find these people innocent. It's not for the government to make a sweeping declaration that everyone should be innocent. And yeah, it's causing quite a stir here. Quite a stir means quite a storm. The government, in response, has said, well, post office operators will have to sign a legal statement promising that they were actually innocent. Otherwise, they could get convicted again later as the investigation continues. So I don't know, it's a little bit strange, and it speaks volumes about the government pushing this through. Some people say that they have no respect for the courts, and other people say, no, they should do it, and it's a good thing they're doing it. And of course, this has become a political storm. Somebody, a politician or a representative of the Scottish government, has said they're really disappointed that this bill going through the central government right now doesn't apply to Scotland. So that's also creating a bit of a storm, but I think it's probably something practical. There's probably legal issues because Scotland has a very different legal system. And the Scottish government has said, well, we will bring in our own legislation. However, victims in Scotland could face a delay because the central governments have not done this. And the same comments have came out from the Northern Irish government. They've also said that it's something they will need to deal with separately. So you see how the four nations have difficulties with working together on this because of their own political views, historical systems. This, again, pushes independence into the spotlight because it's not very clear who's taking responsibility for this. And there we are. That's it from me for today. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm a little bit over my time, which again speaks volumes about the importance of the post office scandal. That's it from me. See you. Bye.